You're watching Past the Wire TV.
Another big weekend of racing at the Big A on tap for Saturday. Jim Gazali, Geo
Mr. Geo
Seti.
Seti, absolutely.
We'll hear from Jon, the boss, in a little while. So stick with us for Jon's commentary on the Cigar Mile. But welcome in to Past the Wire TV. Geo, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, but I got to share a quick story that every single person watching this will relate to in some way. It just happened. See, here we are on a Wednesday evening. It is Wednesday, right?
I think so.
Okay.
It's been a crazy couple weeks, but yeah, I think it's Wednesday.
So today, to keep it short, and I'm sure many of you are already aware, but Mr. Seti dug down deep and provided a full handicap on the opening night at Turfway Park in Kentucky on a synthetic. And I shared it because I was pretty confident. Long story short, I breezed through the first four races with several hits, including a $38 horse and an $88 horse, which were part of my pick five. So then they announced that me, yours truly, Geo Seti, I had two of the existing three tickets alive in the pick five, both of them at a value at $155,000. I kid you not. What happened? One of my horses scratched at the gate, so I absorb and now get the post-time favorite, who's the 14, and is also 4-5. So I double check and I said, okay, they're going to amend the amount. What am I going to get? It's going to pay just over $50,000 on a pick five if I could get a 4-5, horse who took over for my horse scratched at the gate. Long story short, it didn't work out. The favorite ran second, and Mr. Seti got a lousy consolation. I know you're feeling me. You'll hear more about it another time. Let's take care of the task at hand. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Big day at Aqueduct Saturday.
Sorry, Geo, but glad that you're focusing to the finish, as you say, and we're going to finish out this Cigar Mile race.
That's right. We have to keep our focus.
Aqueduct.
We always go to the finish. Like, I'm raring to go. I did a lot of work on this race. So, Jim, I'm happy to be here with you, and we're going to rock and roll and cover the entire field.
All right. Well, why don't you ride that momentum and you kick us off here with Danno from the rail in the Cigar Mile.
Okay. Well, everybody, first things first, the Cigar Mile is a $500,000 race. It's race 9 at Aqueduct. Of course, it's going a mile, and it's a beautiful field, and we're here to bring it to you tonight, so take notes when you need to. All right, the number 1, Danno. A lot of things I like about this horse. 10 for 10 in the money, ultra consistent, 9 out of 10 actually being part of an exacta ticket. It is a young horse, 3-year-old, facing many seasoned older horses who are not only seasoned, but they're very successful. You do have IRAD up for Derek Ryan. It's a second time IRAD, and he is working smartly. However, in this deep field, as much respect I have for this horse and his ridiculous consistency, I'm going to use him in my multiples because I have to, but he's going to be my third choice in the wagering, and I'll talk about my ticket structure later on. A contender, but will not be my top choice in this race, but I will use in multiples.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree with you. I think he is a strong contender here. My knock on him, if there is any, honestly, is we kind of know who he is and what he is at this point. His figures have been pretty consistent, at least on the Brisnet, 100, 101, 100 in his last four starts. And he's been right around it. He's won a couple of them, just beating a neck, just beating a length. We know who he is at this point. Quality horse. I just think others are sitting on a bit more of a forward move that can beat him here. I do suspect that he'll run his race and he'll run his figure. I just think others might be improving while he might be kind of leveled off here towards the end of this 3-year-old campaign.
Okay, interesting.
This Nelson Avenue, I'll be honest, I couldn't make a case for this one. I think it'll be an early pace factor, so we'll hear his name once or twice. But I think if this one got up and won, I'd be a bit surprised.
Okay, you're anything else, or you're up to me?
That's it.
I got a little more to share with this guy. All right, a nice gelding, never been better in his career. Nelson Avenue, so you guys know, I'm a Brooklyn guy that moved to Staten Island, and Nelson Avenue is a big avenue on Staten Island. And I believe the ownership, I haven't confirmed this, got the name for this horse from Nelson Avenue, right in the heart of Staten Island. But anyway, because it's a big avenue, yeah, and there was a few cool places around there. But anyway,
Nelson Avenue also borders Saratoga Racecourse, so I thought that's where it came from.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe both. Both.
I guess affectionately, I'm saying he's part of the Staten Island culture. But anyway, let's move on to business. More on this horse. The horse is 2 for 2 at the Big A, so a horse for the course, hitting the exactable time, winning 1. Also 3 for 3 at the distance. However, okay, so I like horses that are improving, and he's basically never been better, so he's matured greatly. He is a horse for the course. However, obviously there are many classy individuals in this race. He's got a major step up in class. But if Nelson Avenue is 30, 40 to 1, I have him listed at the bottom of my handicap, and I'll probably be using him in deeper superfecta gimmicks because he is my 7th choice. It was actually, I did my precise order, and it was 6/7 or 7/6. That's where I am with a pace factor on Nelson Avenue.
Yeah. I mean, he does have Dylan Davis, who always, seemingly finds a way to run a nice race on a decent priced horse in some of these. So we'll see.
Yeah. Repo Rocks. You want me to begin with Repo Rocks?
Yeah. Take it away.
Repo Rocks. I'm going to be rather brief. Long career. Another gelding. Sort of a hard hitter. There are certain horses I know through and through, but this guy, I had to go back into film study and race review. I wanted to look a little more at him. Back in, also, by the way, a horse for the course again, hitting the board many times, 9 out of 15 at Aqueduct, has also won at the distance. Obviously, he's been better back in the day. If you go back to the middle of 23, actually the beginning of 23, go to the Toboggan, the grade 3 race, where he ran a 111 buyer. You see that?
Yeah.
So back in the day, he had some flashes of, being a superb horse on a racetrack. However, I got to look back in the day, and I got to look at the current form. He was the other horse that's going to be a slash 6th and 7th. He's going to make my deeper superfectas, believe it or not, deep in my gimmicks. That's where I had him. He wasn't a total throwout for me.
Yeah, just a couple of knocks on him from me. It just seems like his form is kind of tailed off from when he was really peaking towards the early parts of 2023. Just seems like he went to the Dutro barn and then came back to Jamie Ness, and it just seems like he hasn't been able to at least sustain any bit of that form. His first two back in the barn with Jamie Ness were fine, but it just seems like he's tailing off a little bit, and then the company that he's kept in those races, I think, is a bit weaker than some of the top choices in here. And this is one other thing that kind of sticks out to me, and I don't know, maybe I don't have the stats to bear it out, but perhaps it comes back to bite me more often than not. But just seeing a horse in a race like this that's run 43 times is a bit of a turnoff in my view. So I don't see him as a win contender, and I won't be using him on the majority of my tickets.
Yeah, the only reason why I said he'll be in my very deep gimmicks, because he does have a couple of races. He's running with the likes of Cody's Wish, Zandon, White Barrio in the Metropolitan Hand. A horse has some, back class, and I don't think he's a threat for the win. But if anything, he'll fill out a super late in my secondary or third type of superfectas. All right, let's move forward with Vinsanity. This is going to be pretty easy to go fast with. But go ahead. You want to weigh it off?
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this horse. It just looks completely overmatched in here. I've never even heard of this horse, to be quite honest. So not for me.
Yeah, and I'm going to be quick too. But one cute tidbit on this: remember that guy who played for the Knicks? They had a nickname for him,
Linsanity. Yeah.
This is Vinsanity, and let me tell you something, guys. This horse is the only horse in the field that has a mathematical, absolute zero chance of emerging victorious in this race. I may quit the game if he won. In my opinion, he should be about 90-1. He's too slow. I just won't. To me, I'm treating him like as if he's scratched.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry for the connections and the owner and the barn, but it's nice to have him in this race, but he will not be a factor in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, agreed. All right, kick us off with Mullikin.
You want me to start with Mullikin?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. The obvious thing to be considering here, no doubt, has to be considered a contender. And I'll give you some of the details I found in not only my film study, but in my breakdown of all of his past performances and his full body of work. First of all, what jumps at you is that the horse is a fast horse. He's got high speed. You do have Flavien Prat. Rudy Brisset, I mentioned this on my other Philly show that people could have seen already. This trainer has a barn that has had a wonderful 2024. They won a lot of nice races. They're consistent. They're reliable. He does a great job. Many races in Kentucky he's won, but he's basically winning all over the country. So you got Flavien Prat on a horse, second off a layoff, could be imposing here. I like going over the numbers. Look at that. 9 out of 10, career in the money. Is coming into his own. It's a 4-year-old facing some older horses. But 4 out of 5 in 2024. And then when you go over his workouts leading to the race, more importantly, the way he performed off of that layoff, you got to expect him to move forward. Now, he's not my top choice, but I consider him not only the obvious pace factor, but I consider him a threat if others falter. So he has to be, in my eyes, listed as a contender. But to be honest with you, in my precise order, 4 others are more appealing to me. He'll be my 5th choice in this race.
Yeah, I like this horse. He's not my top pick, but I think that Breeders' Cup Sprint was a lot better than what the running line and the speed figure might suggest. I mean, he was kind of out of his element. He likes to be up on the lead, or if not on the lead, just on that pace. And he found himself a couple of lengths back behind horses, and he was able to kind of maintain his ground and stay on in that Breeders' Cup Sprint. So I think a return to the front, if you will, in this race makes him a legitimate contender. We saw him throughout the late spring and through the summer. He was just cleaning up. He was probably the best sprinter in the country for several months, and I don't think his Breeders' Cup Sprint was all that bad. So definitely a top contender in my view, but not my top pick.
And one other thing to add, interesting, all the stuff you shared, Jim. Thanks. He's got to go a mile this time.
Right.
Furlongs, and he does have that win over the Aqueduct Oval, which is very important sometimes because, he's traveling from the West Coast, but he's been here before.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point about stretching out to a mile. I think a lot of times what we found with these mile races, the big mile races like the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, the Cigar Mile, the Met Mile, a lot of these you see the especially the one-turn miles, you see the horses that are cutting back in distance from mile and a 16th, mile and an eighth, typically having more success than the horses that need to be stretching out from 6 or 7 furlongs.
Yeah, and what's going to help him? Final thought on Mullikin is that you have the intelligence of Flavien Prat.
Right.
The rider is. We all know the importance of the rider, so contender. It's going to be interesting how much of a pace there is up front.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of pace up front, I think that could benefit this law professor. I'm very, very interested in law professor in the Cigar Mile. I think his late pace figures, especially in that last race, albeit against lesser competition, I think the pace is going to be pretty swift up front. And I think that could set up for a horse like Law Professor. Everybody knows I like the Brisnet late pace figures. He popped for a 104 in his last start, which is one of the highest in the field, alongside one of the horses that we'll talk about next. But I really like Law Professor here. Second start for Atras. He's coming back into the Atras barn. I think that last race was really impressive, and I'm looking for him to take a nice step forward. And with the pace, how I see it shaping up in front of him, I think this horse has a legit shot at a decent price.
All right, John. Jim, good points. I definitely have more to add. I gave this guy a long look, and because I wasn't familiar with many of his races, I probably watched more of his races than I did so many of the others that I'm very familiar with. Here's some extra notes on this guy. First of all, it's a 6-year-old gelding who is a son of Constitution. I trust Kenrick Carmouche. Again, another jockey, knows the oval. Very proficient at a mile. 3 for 6 winning. 5 for 7 at Aqueduct. And 7 for 7, never off the board at Aqueduct. However, if you look at this guy's last 3 races, 5-horse field, 7-horse field, 5-horse field. You know, and obviously it's a big step up in class. What happens sometimes with certain horses, now look, he's got a big body of work. He's running all types of fields. But certain horses get comfortable or more comfortable when there's less action around them, to their left, to their right, behind them, ahead of them. So if you look back to the last 2 times he was in a 12-horse field or that 8-horse field, he didn't run very well. Now, combine that with the step up in class here, no doubt, may get a good trip. And you're going to get a robust price with this horse. But this is the Cigar Mile. I always looked at this race as a grade 1, but obviously it's a grade 2, so I consider it a high-end grade 2. And there's just some tough individuals in this race. So grudgingly, because it's a big field, because he's stepping up in class, even though he seems to relish at Aqueduct, I wouldn't blame someone for using him, definitely in his exotics. But I had to make a stand for myself, and I said, you know what? If I'm going to go top 7 in my handicap of the 11, then I got to be stringent upon, and I got to release the grip off a few. And unfortunately, he's one of them I left off.
Yeah. I mean, just those 2 races that you pointed out, one was on the turf, the other was at Keeneland. You know, just looking at it, like if there was a horse for course in this race, you'd almost have to give that edge to Law Professor. It seems like he only runs well at Aqueduct. He only has one other figure in here from Oaklawn Park that would be would make him a contender, but all of his top figures have been at Aqueduct. So
yeah, and let me tell you something. I remember seeing races. He was going against Cody's Wish. Life is Good. Look at the company he kept. So when I said he's stepping up in class, he's going back to classier ones. He was on a lighter end of the stick recently, but he's got some wonderful back class.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a hard hitter. Believe me, it wasn't easy for me to say, you know what? I can't use a few in here, even though they perform well, and he was one of them.
All right, what do you think of Locked?
All right, well, can I lead off with Locked?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I got a lot to say about Locked because Locked is my top choice. All right, this is who I land on for many reasons. A, I know it's a 3-year-old facing older horses, and sometimes it's a major challenge because I don't want to contradict myself. Sometimes 3-year-olds facing older, even though they're a great performer, it's just that much more of a task. However, in this race, I love that second time Johnny V, and I've always been a big fan of Johnny V, the way he manages his position on the racetrack. You know, if he's on the lead, or if he's a stalker, or if he's got to come from not from the clouds but from back, he always positions himself well. He's a very cerebral, intelligent rider, and he defies logic with his age because obviously he's riding as good as anybody in big races these days. Second with a layoff, all right, but the type of layoff. He closes out November of 23 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Prior to that, he ran big in the Grade 1 over at Keeneland, all right? You have the past performances up. So it's not just a layoff, but it's a layoff of 11 months. He's already a Grade 1 winner, take 11 months off. He comes back, and he fires what I felt was a brilliant race. Granted, he's not beating any killers. It was a 6-horse field. And he didn't run lights out. Well, he won convincingly. But see that number, the 97 buyer? To me, with that layoff, and he runs at 97, and if you watch the race, okay, the way he was wide and just effortlessly just devoured the field, I think he's got another big race in him. He's 1 for 1 on a mile. I trust Johnny V. I think there's going to be enough pace, and I think he's going to be intelligent enough to stay close enough in the field. And I see Locked running big down the lane with a good trip. Top choice, but I am going to use 3 in my multiples, but in my triples and exactas, I'm going to lean on Locked. And if I had to give a percentage of how much I like this horse, I'd probably say in my top 3, I'd give him a 75% chance with a 20 and then a 5%, my top 3.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to hear what you have to say about Locked. Go ahead.
I mean, I agree with everything that you said. I thought that last race, coming back off of almost a year-long layoff to win the way he did and put out a figure like that, regardless of the competition, regardless of the size of the field, I thought was super impressive. And I think he's only going to go forward off of that. Gun runners, we've seen they improve as the years go on. So he's late into his 3-year-old campaign, which has only been one race really, but I thought that last race was exactly what he needed coming off such a long layoff, and I fully expect him to take another step forward, and a step forward off of that effort makes him incredibly dangerous in here. In his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 career races, he's been favored in 4 of them, and in 3 of those starts, he was, less than a dollar in the odds. So I think he's going to get bet hard. Top win contender. I haven't landed on my top pick, but it's between him and one other one that we'll talk about, and maybe a third if I want to get like super cute. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
Maybe your top is going to be my second choice because we haven't gotten one. But I'm glad you mentioned Gun Runner because I love Gun Runners, and you were precisely right. Timing is perfect. Gun Runners develop as they do. And like I said, you got Johnny V in your corner here, Todd Pletcher. I just love everything about this horse. I'd be very surprised if he's not ready to go on Saturday.
Yeah. Pipeline to me, he's got races that allow him to fit in here. And it seems like his last 2 were arguably 2 of his better races that he's run, at least with Cherie DeVoe, after he went there after some time with Chad Brown. I'd be surprised if he won here. I think he'll be an early pace factor, but I think everybody else is going to be moving a little quicker than him, and I don't know that this necessarily sets up for him to be successful, at least in the win end, in my view.
Okay, good stuff. I know a lot about this horse. Son of Speightstown, big time sire. Actually, the late Speightstown. I still can't believe the horse passed away. Last race was nice, really was. However, the horse is 6 years old, and clearly, if you go back to 22, the horse is simply not the same horse as he was back then. Between the company he kept and his race times. So as much as I felt he improved last time, he does have a win over the track. Cherie DeVoe, I have a lot of respect for her barn and everything that she's accomplished. Interestingly enough, you got Junior Alvarado as a jockey change here. But again, you got to take the entire field and put it into play. and then you have to draw that picture. And I drew a picture of a horse that could be a pace factor, but with the company here, the horse is only 1 for 6 at a mile. There are just so many others in the race that are more accomplished, and I just wouldn't have a level of confidence betting this horse. So Pipeline's one of the horses that I have to leave off my tickets.
All right, what about Senor Buscador? What'd you think about him?
All right, I'll lead off with Senor Buscador. Many things to like about this horse. I was actually on the fence. Remember I said early in our analysis, talking about some of the other horses, that I'm probably going to go 3 deep in my multiples, like my pick 3s, especially my pick 4 or pick 5. However, I may make a daytime decision to go 4 deep, because there are a lot of things I like about Senor Buscador, and I'm going to expand on it. First things first, class personified. You got a lot of class here, a horse that travels well. You get Joao Rosario up again, second time for him. Interestingly enough, when do you see horses run? Go to the workouts for this horse. Working out at Zia Park in New Mexico. Do I have it right? Yeah. Zia Park in New Mexico. I just feel like this horse is going to relish an opportunity at a greater distance. At a mile, he's certainly dangerous because of his class body of work. And he seems to be training well. And his last, a 103 buyer at Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup Classic, didn't have the best of trips. You could watch that again. So I don't know if he was right on Breeders' Cup Classic Day, but for this race, I feel he's fit and dangerous. But when I had to be strict with my precise order, I almost had him as my 3rd choice, but I gave that to Bookham Danno. But he's going to be my 4th choice. I wouldn't blame anybody using this horse in their multiples, because I may use him in my pick 5. But from a win, exactor, and triple perspective, I would want a little more distance for this guy, and he's going to be my 4th choice. But he's dangerous on his best.
Yeah, this is the horse that if I wake up on Saturday morning and I want to get cute with who I'm playing in here, this will be my top choice. I think they're going to be cooking up front, and that just plays right into his wheelhouse. The 2 workouts post Breeders' Cup, and I want to say Todd Fincher has a string at New Mexico in New Mexico. So I think that's where most of his horses run. So it seems like getting those 2 works into him post Breeders' Cup is almost like, not that the Breeders' Cup Classic wasn't the target, but it seems like he came out of that race in good enough shape, and this is where they were pointing him next, right out of that race, which I think is a good sign. If you go back to last year's Cigar Mile, I thought he ran really well. He closed really well, and then kind of carried that into a nice effort in the Pegasus World Cup. Took that to the Middle East, where he represented himself well. I typically don't like to criticize jockeys. It's one of the hardest jobs in sports. I could never possibly do it, but giving Joe Talamo a leg up those 2 times is just so confusing to me. He's just not riding well. Has not been riding well at all this year. So those 2 things, I think, definitely played into those performances. And then we saw, like you said, Geo, not the best of trips, and I don't think anybody was catching Sierra Leone or Fierceness or Forever Young that day. Arguably 3 of the best horses that have run stateside this year. But he still improved significantly off of those last two efforts. I think the cutback in distance plays to his advantage. I think the pace up front ahead of him is going to play to his advantage. So, like I said, I think if I'm feeling like I want to get cute with something, and if the price is right, this might be just where I land with Senor Buscador to close out the year on a high note in the Cigar Mile.
All right. Good stuff, man. And I have to add something to it now that I've listened to your analysis. I watched the Cigar Mile from last year too, and you're right. If I have it right, I could look closer. Yeah, he was 8 or 9 wide. He was extremely wide and had a big effort that day. And like I said, his class alone makes him dangerous. However, I get a feeling, even though he's won at the distance, he's 3 for 4 in the money at the distance. He's proven it a mile. If you look at his travel schedule, my God, what they've done with this guy. And now he's coming from the 3 races in California, across the country again. It's a very long, arduous process to travel like he has. Does he have this big-time kick in a stretch? Yeah, he's dangerous. But that's why I have to make a decision. It's cool, and I respect you for making him your top choice. I actually wrote the morning line on this, and then I forgot who it was who posted the morning line on this later. I said I felt he was going to be 8-1, and then I saw the morning line was 6-1. So I was very close with my morning line preparation. A contender, but he's going to be my 4th choice. And if others falter, he could take it all. And I just got to make a business decision whether I'm going to use him in my multiples.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the entries here, like I can't see him being better than 5th choice when they break from the gate.
Yeah, and listen, Rosario's going to make a big difference. You're right. Listen, all due respect to Joe Talamo, I had no idea why Talamo was on him the few times that he was, because this was a very special horse. I mean, Alvarado did a wonderful job with him over in Dubai. Was it Dubai? I believe it was Dubai. And I think Rosario's a good fit for him, especially the way he grabs the reins, and he's very strong arm and confident if he has a lane.
Yeah. All right. What'd you think of Coastal Mission?
Okay, I'll start with Coastal Mission, and then then you'll go. Then I'll finish with the bottom horse, because I have a lot to say with him. He's going to be my 2nd choice. But all right, Coastal Mission. Nice horse. Gray gelding. Last 2 wins. Looks like he's coming around and he's gaining in confidence. He's got some back races where his times would put him right here in the mix. I also like the fact that he's won at Aqueduct and he's won at the distance, like many in the race have. But overall, full body of work. I did put a special notation because I felt like the horse was training very well. Show our viewers his workouts. I mean, they are very fast. They are showing that he's fresh, fit. But against this field from that post, with others looking to make a big run, getting a good trip, I don't know if I could go with his rider under these circumstances to outduel so many of the other seasoned veteran go-getters. So I'm leaving him off my tickets.
Yeah, I'd be a bit surprised if he was able to get the win here. Though I will say, again, I like these class ratings from Brisnet, and it has him as 2nd overall current class, right behind Post Time. So I don't think he's going to win, but from a class standpoint, at least how Brisnet spits it out, they think on the class end, at least he's right in the mix. And to be fair to this horse, there are a couple of starts from the summer that would make him a contender here. But in his last two, the horses that he's beat that are in this race, Nelson Avenue and Repo Rocks, neither one of us had much to say in the way of potential win candidates for either Nelson Avenue or Repo Rocks. So I don't know. It seems like Coastal Mission might be swimming in too deep of water here, though. Overall, 14 wins out of 25 starts, definitely a quality horse. But I think others are sitting on better performances come Saturday.
Yeah, and look, he's hit the board 20 out of 25 times. He's a nice racehorse. Well, like I said, a West Virginia bred to win this race. I've seen a lot of things over the years. He just would need too many horses to falter in this race for him to win.
Yeah. All right. Post time.
Can I lead off with post time?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Post time, if you follow me along, because I'm going to give you my final precise so you know I'm consistent with what I'm saying. Post time, in my opinion, is the biggest threat to my top choice Locked. And I'll tell you why. So he's my second choice. I will be using him across the board. Doubles. Pick 3, pick 4, pick 5. My exacta, my triples. Not many tickets will be left off with post time. And here's why. First things first, most people know about Brittany Russell and Sheldon Russell, right? Husband and wife, trainer, jockey. The horse is proven in Aqueduct. 5 for 5 in exactas at the distance. So this is a horse that relishes the mile. I watched all of the mile races. Talking about a horse that has a giddy up and a level of comfort and a power and sort of like an unrelenting type of close. It's this guy. He also could be a pace factor too, because I feel like he's got some versatility. But in this race, I'm going to trust that Sheldon Russell, and I have no doubt that the horse is in shape and ready to roll. Ran a month ago. This gray is sort of statuesque. You got to look at the shape of the horse. His best puts him right there in the mix, literally right there. Maybe a photo, but make no mistakes. Proven over Aqueduct soil, 5 for 5 at the distance, built for the mile, son of Frosted, ready to roll. And what I like about this is I did my morning line, and my morning line was 3-1. And I think it was David from DRF made the morning line. He put 7-2. And I like that because even with this post, I just think that post time is going to be a major threat when things get busy in the stretch. And it'll be post time and Locked closing together down the lane. And I'm giving the edge to Lock. And I gave the edge, like 70, 25, I believe I said. So I have to use both, but this horse is my clear second choice.
Yeah, I think post time, if I wake up Saturday morning and I'm not feeling like getting cute with my wagers, post time's going to be my top choice. I thought perhaps Sheldon Russell left him a little bit too much to do in that Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile out at Del Mar. I wish he just was a little bit closer because, like you said, Gio, he does have that devastating late kick that he's put on display rather consistently for over a year now. I'm excited to see this horse run again. They've got 3 works into him since the Breeders' Cup, which suggests to me that he is still feeling fit from that Breeders' Cup effort. I think he's going to move forward off of that. I think they're going to be moving up front, like I said, So if he can just play this a little bit closer to those front runners and not leave himself so much to do, I think that post time is going to be a huge contender in here. Also, to your point, Geo, proven at Aqueduct. I was there that day on Wood Memorial Day for the Carter when he got up over Castle Chaos by a neck. And if you remember that race, Super Chow drifted out and Sheldon Russell, like everybody knows Super Chow drifts out, and Sheldon Russell just had him in like the worst possible spot to get bumped by Super Chow. And he was still able to kick on. I bet Castle Chaos that day and Dylan Davis and got my heart ripped out at the wire. But I thought that was really when I started to pick up on post time and see the quality. And, he's just kind of continued to impress and use that form across a variety of different distances since the spring. I think he's got a huge shot in here, given the pace. And I just hope that Sheldon Russell has him a little bit closer than he did in the Breeders' Cup, so he can be within striking distance and overtake everybody late.
Yeah, I mean, I had that vision. And you know what? And you folks that are watching, go ahead, watch 5, 6, 7, 8 of his races. Watch all his races at a mile. This horse clearly has a nose for the wire. Unrelenting, powerful, confident. You like to see that in a racehorse. Game, inside, outside. When others are clearly in front of him, he keeps coming at them. Nice horse. And I'll tell you, that vision of post time and locked together after the 8th pole, running towards the wire. If that happens, then Mr. Seti is going to get paid and paid well. So with that note, I'm going to give my precise order of finish. And by the way, you know what? I'm really looking forward to see what Jon has to say, because when we finish, Jim, you're going to share with the folks that Jon's going to come on. I'd be very surprised, because I know the way how Jon evaluates races, that if he doesn't give this horse consideration too, and I have no idea who he's on. It's just a nice racehorse. All right, so the Geo Seti precise order. You've probably been taking notes, but if you haven't, it's 7-1. Repeat. 7-11, because I sort of won. 7-11, 1, 9, 5, 3/2. 7-11, 1, 9, 5, 3/2, or 2/3.
All right. Yeah, and I've got, like I said, depending on how I feel Saturday morning, we're recording this Wednesday night. I'm between post time and Senor Buscador on the win end. But for sure on my multiples, I'll be using 4, and that'll be locked, post time, Law Professor, and Senor Buscador on my pick 3s, pick 5s. All right. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, closing thought. For you guys watching who haven't seen the big Philly race, the Demoiselle on Saturday, please go to Past the Wire TV and watch my Demoiselle. Also, I believe Jon is doing a show on the Remsen Stakes. And Jim, you have the floor to say what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, I'm going to go through the Gopher Wand, and I'll have that up at some point between when you're watching this and Saturday morning. So we'll each cover all the different stakes at Aqueduct, and have everybody prepared for almost half the card at least.
Yeah, and listen, there's a lot of money to be made. Let's go get them. But remember, Jim's going to sound us off, and then Jon is coming on, right, Jim? So you do that when we say goodnight, but stay tuned, because now you're going to get the crew chief, Jon Stettin.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better myself. Geo, always great hanging with you. Everybody stick around. Jon will be on the other side of this break with his thoughts on the Cigar Mile.
Good night, everybody.
Tracking trips at Past the Wire, no matter what your level of play is. You know, people play the horses for all types of reasons. The action, the excitement, the thrill, the challenge. Some, believe it or not, even play expecting to lose. Me, I don't have that problem. I play to win and take down scores and have been doing it successfully for a long time. This is the life I've chosen. Don't go into battle alone. I do that. And you can have me and Tracking Trips as your second set of eyes. You can be a better. Let's win this fight. Patience, discipline, like a cobra, ready to strike at the right time. When we win, we celebrate, and we celebrate hard because the rewards make all of it worth it. Nobody does it better. Tracking Trips at Past the Wire. Be a member, unless, of course, you hate money. Ciao tutti. Sorry for the little change in plans, little change in format. We got Geo and Big Race Jim doing a little deep dive on the Cigar Mile. I'm gonna hit a little cleanup today and go through the field myself. I did not have the luxury nor pleasure of watching their opinions or their thoughts on the race, so I'm flying in without knowing their opinions, as they don't know mine and didn't know mine when they were talking. So that's just how it worked out this week, scheduling wise. But you'll still get the deep dive from all three of us. So we'll get right into it because you guys have been watching them and gals. So let's roll. Bookham Danno goes from the rail. I never really thought this horse was all that much. I thought he was overrated. His race in Saudi Arabia looks a lot better to me now than it used to. I didn't visually like the way he looked that day or like his action, but considering who he lost to and how he lost, I kind of got to upgrade it. And since then, he's been very good. I don't know that a mile is going to be his game. I'm against him from the rail. I think he's a bet against. That's just my opinion, but I could see why people might like him or gravitate to him. I think there are some classier horses in here, and although he's game, he didn't get the job done in the last two. The Monmouth race, I'm not thrilled with. I think this is a tough spot for Bookham Danno, so I'm going to take a stand against him. He's not on my radar as a potential Cigar Mile winner. Nelson Avenue, he's got some speed. I don't know if he's going to be fast enough to run with these and for how long. He looks a cut below to me. Best I could say about him is he's got some pace, but he looks clearly to be a cut below more than a couple of these. Repo Rocks, Jamie Ness horse, got real good at times, ran some really big races. I guess if he runs back to one of those freaky good races that he threw in, maybe. I don't think he's going to be able to bring that form back again on Saturday. If he does, I guess he's a player, but I don't think he's going to be able to. I don't think he's the same horse now than he was then. So I think he'd really have to turn things around and go back to his absolute best and then some to beat these. And I don't see that happening. Vinsanity, another one that to me is clearly a cut below the better ones in here. I don't see him being a major player in the Cigar Mile on Saturday. Mullikin, I think Mullikin is the horse to beat. I think he ran better than it looked in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I'm not sure things went the way that the connections hoped or intended they go. He sat back off what looked like would be a very contentious pace with a lot of pressure. Didn't really turn out that way, although they went fast. Straight no chaser sat the perfect ideal trip that I really thought he would sit and won the race. And he closed and made up some ground, but I don't think he really got the right run of it. And I think that he will get a much better run of it stretching out to the 1-turn mile. I also think he's a Violence who was by Medaglia de Oro out of a Congrats mare. He's bred to handle the mile and then some. I think the mile is going to be perfect for him. I think he's sitting on a career type race. Big effort. Top choice for me, Mullikin. I think he makes amends for the Breeders' Cup loss and gets it done in the Cigar Mile as my top choice for sure. Law Professor, another one I think is, I don't know, maybe on his best could make some noise here. But again, I don't get past Mullikin, with him at all. I would have to go to Mullikin all day long. But, I can see him making a little bit of noise and hanging around a little bit longer than some people might expect. But I don't think he can beat Mullikin. And there's a couple of others I would go to before him that we'll get to momentarily. First one of those is going to be Locked. I think that Locked is dangerous off that one race back. And it's only one race back, but he's a gun runner, getting better. End of his 3-year-old year. Was off since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile in 2023 at Santa Anita. Looks like he came back good, highly regarded enough to run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Obviously, something went wrong, got hurt, had a setback. We know that by looking at the form. What I do like is Todd obviously did not rush or push this horse back to the races at all. Patient, took his time, bang. Look how it paid off. Horse come back like a monster. I think he can go forward. I think that he's going to like the 1-turn mile. He's perfectly drawn outside. And he's probably tied for my second choice behind Mullikin in the race. So I like Mullikin. I like Locked. Pipeline is another one who I guess on his best day can make a little noise here, but I like the others that I mentioned, Mullikin and Locked, both better than him. Again, best race can put him in there, but is he going to do it? I'm not so sure. And even if he does, I don't think that he can beat Mullikin. Senor Buscador, interesting horse to me. Don't like him on Saturday, but when he ran in the Pat O'Brien at Del Mar after running huge in the Pegasus, where I did like him, ran good in the Cigar Mile last year, where I did not like him, but I liked him in the Pegasus, ran huge, ran phenomenal in the Saudi Cup. ran okay in the Dubai World Cup, off to the Pat O'Brien. I thought it made a lot of sense to take off until the Pat O'Brien, but I thought that was an odd spot to bring this horse back. And I said, obviously, they're pointing for a longer race. He didn't run good in the California Crown, Grade 1. I don't think he ran that good, although I think he ran better than it looks in the Breeders' Cup Classic, but not good enough for me to like him at a mile here. He's a mystery because I thought that Pat O'Brien race was a setup for something to come and go back to his, early in the year, really, really good form, but he didn't show me enough to endorse him. So I'm going to say thank you, but no thank you, Senor Buscador. Coastal Mission, getting better. Can make his presence felt for a while, maybe. Win, I doubt it. I like the others I mentioned better. I don't think he beats Mullikin. And again, if I would go beyond Mullikin, so far, I would go to lock. Last horse in the race, Post Time. This horse, and pay attention, because here's a little bit of a tell and clue. We got something we're rolling out that we're going to talk a little bit about Post Time and his race in the Breeders' Cup Mile, but make no mistake, Post Time finishes well. He finishes fast. He probably finished better than anybody in the Breeders' Cup Mile, and he certainly galloped out like he won the race. He was just full of himself, couldn't get up, couldn't catch the winner. I get that. The winner got a completely different kind of trip, but Post Time is the third one that I consider a serious win candidate. So I like Mullikin the best. I would probably take Mullikin over Lock and over Post Time in the exacta, and probably ride with Mullikin. I think the stretch out is going to be perfect for him. I think the mile is going to be perfect for him. Locked in Post Time, I respect. Neither one would surprise me, but I'm on Mullikin to make amends for the Breeders' Cup in the Cigar Mile. Give Pratt another stake win, going for the record, running out of chances. He's going to be putting all his horses in the right spot, and he's been doing that all year anyway, so that ain't going to change now. This is not a guy that chokes when the pressure is on. So that's my thoughts. Again, I didn't have the luxury or pleasure or privilege of listening to Big Race Jim and Geo and see where they land. They didn't know where I was going to land. I got a feeling, and I'm not Jimmy the Cop, and a lot of you will know what that means, but I got a feeling that Geo may land on Mullikin. Big Race Jim, I got a feeling, is going for a price or maybe Post Time, because he and I are privy to some post-time discussions that you all will become privy to in a very short time, and I'm sure love and appreciate. So that's my thoughts on the Cigar Mile. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Going to turn it back over to Geo and Big Race Jim to wrap things up. See you all soon. Hit the like button, subscribe, show us some love. Means a lot. The holidays are coming. Be nice, and ciao for now.
Enter the world of Kingdom Nutrition, your #1 source for healthy horses and fast finishes. Make sure your horses stay strong and healthy with the balanced mineral profile of Healthy Bones. This veterinarian recommended supplement helps foals, weanlings, and yearlings grow and develop. Healthy Bones also helps speed up recovery so your horses can stay in training longer and race more often. Plus, Appetite, the amazing product for your horses. Is your horse a poor eater? Does he dunk his grain in his water bucket? Do you believe he may have ulcers? Are you tired of paying for expensive drugs which offer only temporary relief? Why not try Appetite, the amazing product which is 100% all natural, produced by nature. Appetite contains more than 300 herbs, grasses, and wildflowers to help your horses look and feel amazing. Your cost for a 1-month supply is only $99. It comes with an unconditional money-back guarantee if you're not 100% satisfied with the results. Call Justin at Kingdom Nutrition today